Hey folks, I really apologize. We had a major audio issue for the online audience. So I'm gonna have Caleb give his operational piece again so that we can make sure that those folks online get an opportunity to hear everything, because we wanna make sure they have just as much access as the folks in the room. I wanna take, while he's taking a quick water, this is Tara Trujillo. She is our American Sign Language interpreter, and she's been doing an amazing job the last couple of days helping us out. Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience while we figured out the audio issue. And Caleb, take it away.
Here we go, round two. All right, no worries. Here we go. We're going to begin with the southern tip of the fire as described a minute ago. This is the break between Division Alpha and Division Zulu. Over the last 3 to 4 days, fire has backed down into Child's Power Plant, all along the Verde River, up to Browns Spring. And that fire continues to hold in the Verde River. It has not crossed the Verde River. That's a good thing. That fire that's backing down into the Verde, the fire behavior is being minimized by various aircraft, helicopters, scoopers. And what that does is that reduces that intensity as it backs down there. It gets into those cottonwoods to reduce fire from crossing the Verde. What we don't want is we don't want fire across that Verde River. Moving off to the north and west section of the fire, I'll talk about fire behavior, and then we'll talk about operational missions with our firefighters. This fire continues to back to the west against the prevailing winds, and then flank off to the northwest. And so as it backs a little bit, and then it moves a little bit. That's rough, rugged country. It's broken. There's areas with lots of fuel. There's areas with limited fuel. It's just rough. We can't put firefighters in there. So what we need to do is we need to back out and find a location and we can be most successful with our resources and have the high probability of success. And where does that lie? That lies right here on the Wheatfield Mesa. And so the resources today, at the end of the shift, got all this line completed down into the Verde River. They increased the line that they had put in yesterday. They also worked on an alternate line, or contingency line as we call it, around Wheatfield Mesa before we get into the community here. What that does is that gives all those firefighters an option to back out to a secondary line should they need to if fire were to spot across their primary. Resources also continue to pay attention and focus on the structures around these lines that were created and back up here to the north and west. What they're looking at is defensible space, the types of homes that are built, what's in there, what can they get in there safely to protect those communities should fire want to impact those. Moving over from drop point 21, moving into Division Hotel and Division Lima, we'll combine those divisions. Resources are limited. We're sharing resources with other fires. We all moving into Division Hotel and Division Lima, we'll combine those divisions. Resources are limited. We're sharing resources with other fires. We all know about the fire activity in the state of Arizona, and so we need to work at sharing those. With that being said, we have limited resources, but we're making great work out there. So along that highway corridor, resources are prepping the road. They're limbing up junipers, they're limbing up ladder fuels, they're pulling logs away from the road. They're removing that burnable, ignitable material that's right next to the 260 highway so that when we go in there to ignite it, that fire behavior is low, and that increases our probability of success dramatically. The fire behavior along these two divisions, here along the Fossil Creek Road, moving up to this little peak right here, this little tip of fire, that's a backing, flanking fire, not a lot of activity in there. Less activity in there today than there was yesterday. Less activity in here today than there was yesterday. But remember, just because we don't see it today doesn't mean the potential's not there. It can change at any time. And so that's what we're focusing on, is these control features that buy us time and create success. Right here along the mesa top, along the power lines, this fire has largely stayed placed for the last few days. It hasn't come out of that canyon. And what aircraft was able to do this morning with helicopters is get in there and lay some water down, pull that edge off, and keep that from progressing to the north. We want to buy ourselves time so that we can get this road prepped. Should we need to ignite the 260, we're prepared. Moving over into Division Papa as we venture into Fossil Creek Resources along Highway 260, drop point 40 over to 50. Drop point 50 is the junction of 260 and 87. Again, resources along Highway 260, drop point 40 over to 50. Drop point 50 is the junction of 260 and 87. Again, lots of preparation taking place at the highway. We're moving lots of dead trees, those that are standing, those that are new from the drought, as well as a lot of material that's on the ground, pulling that across the highway so we can have that chance for great success. Fire activity continues to advance, albeit pulsing, so it's not a flaming front all at one time. It pulses, moves, continuing to move its way up Fossil Creek. What I want to mention is during yesterday's shift, the fire in Fossil Creek had stayed put a little bit, and firefighters had looked at the opportunity to see what our success would be, given the opportunity that should that fire want to stay put, can we go in there and go direct? They evaluated some opportunities, they looked at the risk, evaluated the risk, and yesterday afternoon around 1500, fire activity increased, and that option just wasn't viable. So now we're back to our road systems that we're focused on. I mentioned that because it's important to understand that we look at various options. When we're looking at suppressing fires, we don't just pick a plan and we stick with it. We pick a plan, but we look for those other opportunities. So let's go from the 87-260 junction at Cinch Point and move south. Now we'll get into the communities of Strawberry and Pine. Resources along that highway corridor on 87 continue to prep in the same fashion that the other previous divisions are, just like I mentioned. Now moving down to drop point 60. Right here, this is the hairpin turn before you start to come into the switchbacks into the community of Strawberry. Resources have completed line construction of a dozer line all the way down to drop point 62. This is the Fossil Creek Road. And continued prepping that road system through various fuel breaks that have been constructed in the past, west to Fire's Edge. Along that system, along that control line, there's a hose lay that's in place. It's 2.5 miles long. We have masticators or heavy equipment go in with devices that masticate and chew the brush. That's a form of preparations that we can use with heavy equipment. It gets the job done really quick versus using hand crews to go in there and thin that by hand in chainsaws during the heat that we're experiencing. So right now this line is ready, prepared for any fire in operation should that take place. What I also want to talk about is the great work that was attempted by Resources yesterday to go direct down along Dead Man's Mesa, down here to Mesa here in Fish Fortress and Hardscrabble. We had crews go in there, evaluate if they can get in there and go direct. They did. They made a valiant effort. But at the end of the day, right around 1600, down here at the bottom of Dead Man Mesa, right above Hardscrabble, activity picked up. They had to pull out, and they weren't able to go direct. So what that means for us is we go back to, again, our bigger box, our control features, our control lines, where we can be most successful. So now let's talk about, also in the community of Strawberry, numerous engines, water tenders, working with the local fire departments in Strawberry and Pine, evaluating homes, structures, values, anything that we can protect, we're working on. Installing hose lays, water tanks, pumps, things like that. Things that we can do to protect that community. And then moving down into Division Whiskey, resources continue to look at viable options to prepare for firing operations should that be needed, should fire activity pick up, then we have to implement those decisions, such as coming down here around the headwaters of Hardscrabble, or coming around here to the south and east around the mountain of Strawberry and back to 87. Now what I want to talk about is operational update as of this afternoon. We'll begin with Hardscrabble. Hardscrabble the fire in Hardscrabble and on Deadman Mesa mostly stayed in place today. As of this afternoon, a helipad was constructed in the bottom of Hardscrabble. Resources were going to be flowing in to see what they could do about fire near the bottom of Hardscrabble and extinguish hotspots along that edge. But prior to that occurring, the scoopers, aircraft that dropped tremendous amounts of water, treated all that fire's edge before they landed. So that operation has taken place. We feel we can be successful in there, but again, it's all dependent upon the fire behavior and what it wants to do. Now let's talk about fire in Fossil Creek. Fire in Fossil Creek continues to move pulse through the northern ends of Fossil Creek and advance to the north and east. It's not advancing fast at this time, and so it's pulsing throughout the day. Now, as of about 30 minutes ago, resources in Division Papa, Division Tango, Division Whiskey, along with our other operations section chief, made the decision to go ahead and begin firing operations at the junction of 87 and the 260, working south along that highway corridor, and eventually bringing it back down and tying back into Coal Black on Deadman Mesa. The importance of that firing operation is to allow fire to come in here and buffer this area up here in anticipation of fire in Fossil Creek moving off to the north and east. We do expect fire to move up Fossil Creek, so we need to prepare for it, and be ahead of it. And that's what's taking place this evening. We have numerous resources with all three of those divisions during day shift, as well as night shift. We have transitions taking place, a good solid plan, risk management, where can we be most successful? That's been discussed every single day, and those folks are beginning to carry on that operation, likely as we speak or as the nighttime hours come upon us. Obviously, the communities are still at go in Strawberry and Pine, and that's due to this fire activity that we see out here in the firing operations taking place. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. And just so folks also in the room as well as online know, we will be available to answer questions after our last couple speakers. So if you have questions for any of our operations team, please hold those to the end and then we will get a chance to answer some questions. So up next, I'm going to introduce District Ranger Matt Pachorik.
Good evening, everybody. Next to me on the stage and throughout the crowd, you're going to notice a bunch of different people, a bunch of different uniforms, doing a bunch of different jobs. And in order for us to be successful here, it takes everybody. None of us can do it alone. So I just want to say thanks to all our partners out there. Thanks to the community for being patient. All of us here are wanting to put this fire out, wanting to get people back in their homes, and make this a successful fire. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Matt. And up next is Incident Commander Alan Sinclair.
Good evening, everybody. Alan Sinclair with South. You meant it really close, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I'm Alan Sinclair with Southwest Area Team 1. To the online folks, apologize for the difficulties with the audio. I guess I apologize to you for the difficulties with the audio as well. I'll keep this thing right up on my lips here. But, I don't know an awful lot about the audio video stuff. I know a little bit more about fire than I do about that. I appreciate identifying that we weren't meeting the intent of that live stream and course correcting to make sure it's working for everybody. Because we want to make sure everybody's got the right information and that we're all informed. So that's the intent of our meetings. We are a Type 1 incident management team out of the Southwest area. As I said last night on our live stream, there's 2 in the Southwest area, and we're Team 1. It's an honor to be here and serve your communities alongside the local teams that you have in your communities that serve you on a day-to-day basis. We're a tool that they bring in to help manage large incidents, but they're a huge part of our success. So I want everybody to understand that the decisions that we're making aren't being made in a silo. We're making them with your community leadership and the agency administrators that asked us to be here and manage this incident. In the morning, we get up and we give our firefighters a briefing. They go to work. We're collecting information throughout the day and getting up-to-date information to release to you throughout that day. We gathered information overnight through IR flights. That's where we're getting our fire growth and the amount of acres that have burned. And then we get that corrected, up-to-date information in the morning daily. So as we are going through our cycle of managing this incident, one of the things that we are tasked to do is to provide information to all of you. And that will be our intent each day, is to make sure that you're getting timely information and understand what we're doing out on the incident. I rookied on the Tano. When I first started, I spent a lot of time up in your community on fires throughout my career. And like I said, it's a high honor to be here and with the team, and everybody on the team is an honor to serve you. So we will continue to be a presence, and hopefully you see us often, and we can keep communicating with you and let you know what we're doing. You guys have a good evening, and turn it over to the next speaker.
So I'm going to have my person, one more. Keep going, one more. Alan talked a little bit about our information and how we're sharing information and our intent as our team to get the best and most accurate information out to you guys as we can. So I have a couple of pieces up here on the screen for you. First one is our phone number. Our team of public information officers has this line staffed from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. And it's also got a voicemail system set up on it, so you can actually call it any time of day, and we will get back to you as soon as we have staff in the office and can start returning all the phone calls. Next up there is our Facebook and Twitter feeds. Those are our social media options. We post maps, videos, all of our daily updates on those sites. And then the one right in the middle there is called INCIWeb. INCIWeb is our official source for sharing information. That is our one-stop shop place that we put everything from photos to the daily updates that we produce twice a day, and all the links and announcements to things like community meetings, or if things change for evacuation statuses, we work closely with our community partners, our cooperators, to make sure that information is up to date. So we post, we write twice daily updates. And those updates are in coordination with our operations team as well as our cooperators to make sure that we're providing new written updates as well as video updates twice a day. So please check out those sites. If you have questions, you can leave comments on there. You can give us a phone call and we will be ready to answer your questions. So with that, we are going to transition to some questions. We are ready and prepared to answer questions from both our online community as well as folks in the room. What we're going to do because of our audio issues is if folks have a question, please raise your hands, stand up. I will relay the question back out to the community so the folks online can hear that question. And then our group of amazing cooperators and our staff, our operations folks, our incident commander are on hand to help answer those questions. So with that, I don't have any online questions right away, so I got one right down here, sir. Go ahead.
So knowing what you currently know about the fire, and knowing what you're doing to mitigate that situation, do you have a risk assessment matrix that says there is a low, medium, or high probability the fire will reach Strawberry or Pond?
So the question is, knowing what we know about the fire currently and knowing the conditions out there on the ground, do we have a risk matrix you were looking at Caleb, so I'm assuming that our operations folks use to help address the likelihood of the fire getting closer to the communities?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we have a lot of tools we use. It's not just based on a judgment call. It's not based on an opinion or a guess. We have fire behavior analysts that use numerous computer models, really high-tech stuff, that look at the fire behavior, look at the fuels, look at the topography, the terrain, the weather, current weather, anticipated weather, and they can generate short-term modeling of where that fire is going to go and long-term modeling of where that fire is going to go. Not only that, we have IMEX on site as well as off and available to us. We also have in our safety function, the safety officer has a lot of tools they use to look at managing risk. There's also a lot of computer models that will look at that country, like in Fossil Creek, and they can tell you what our difficulty of line production or line construction will be and how successful we can be. Now, these are tools that we use, and we validate that information or that data on the ground with our folks. So a lot of information to share. And then also we use our engine crews, our hotshot crews. They get out there, they look at that information, they see what they can do. They use 20, 30, 40 years of experience that they've accumulated on fires in the Southwest and abroad, which is an incredible amount of experience and knowledge and leadership to make those decisions. I guarantee you there are firefighters up there, locals from Payson, all over this Marin country, all over the place. They don't want this fire to go any further than you want it to go. And so what we want to do is make a very solid, succinct plan where we can be most successful with the limited amount of resources we have, because we have numerous fires in the state of Arizona. And it's important that when we pick a plan, we are very successful. Hence, that's why we haven't put fire on any of these control lines for the last several days. We want to make sure we do it and we do it right. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir, back there. So I hear a lot of folks asking the question specifically, what is the risk at this moment?
Low, medium, or high for Pine and Strawberry? Fire in town.
The risk right now to fire in town.
Use the mic.
Okay.
Sorry about that. The risk to fire impacting Strawberry and Pine right now is low. There is no fire threatening Dutch. Now that doesn't mean that it won't change. I'm just telling you at this point right now, due to the firefighting actions that have occurred over the last several days, there is currently no threat. But this is a dynamic situation. We're in extreme drought. Nobody's experienced this ever before. And it's very succinct, it's very dynamic, and we have to pivot. Right now, there is no threat. And we're working on mitigating the future threat.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, right
From where the fire started up to Calf Pen or Nash Point area where the fire is now, has the fire topped out on the west side of Fossil Creek anywhere from there?
So repeating the question is, from where the fire started up to Nash Point area, has the fire crossed Fossil Creek?
Has it topped
Top
out on the west side?
on the west side of
Anywhere
Fossil
in
Creek.
Lancashire?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, it has. It is on the west side of Fossil Creek as shown on the map that we have.
What about the east? I'm at the east side. Anywhere on the
East side. So right now, fire has moved up to the crest on the east side of Fossil Creek. It has not move beyond the crest of Fossil Creek.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, right here, and then I'll come to you next, ma'am, okay?
What conditions have to be in place before we can move back and open it up?
So the question is, what are the conditions that need to be in place before we can move
Allow
back?
our homes back.
And so I'm gonna look to my sheriff, law enforcement partners in the room. I can give it. Nope, they're coming.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Tim Scott with the Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff Adam Shepard. Before we let anybody back into the community, believe me, we didn't want to have to remove you in the first place. The fire's kind of dictating what's going to happen. Before we move anybody back, we're going to be working with the incident management team. When they feel it is safe enough and there's no threat that it's going to get into the communities, we will get you back in as soon as we can. But until that point, we're not going to allow anybody back in. As you heard him earlier, the fire right now, there is no threat at this point, but within a day or two, if the wind changes and anything happens, the communities can be in extreme danger. So please just bear with us. We want to get you home as soon as we can.
And I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. What we need is to have fire along our control lines and tie it into coal black and allow us time to get in there and extinguish what we have to light to ensure that fire doesn't come out of those control lines and threaten that community again. And that takes time. Also, we need to think about the safety of the firefighters. We need everybody out of the community so we can get in there safely, drive around the roads, access road systems, look at homes, evaluate, and do our job so that if fire does impact that community, we're ready to implement those plans. And hence, that's why the communities are evacuated, for your safety and then for their safety.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for that. Ma'am, right here in the front.
Two questions. What started the fire? Because I never heard. And then, do you have an estimate of maybe we can go back?
So 2 questions there. The first was, what was the cause of the fire? And the cause of the fire was lightning. And that is reported on our NCWeb page. And then the question was, do we have an estimate of when we can go back?
You know, I'd love to tell you we can let you back in so many days or on a certain date, but right now we just can't make that decision. We can't even guess. We have a lot of operations to conduct and carry out over a certain amount of days. We need to be successful. The moment we can let you in, when we know it's going to be safe and we don't have to re-evacuate the community, then you'll be allowed back.
Thank you. Sir, I'll come down to you in 1 second. We have a question from online, and this is similar to a question that we heard last night, and it was concerns about, as folks have exited their communities, law enforcement presence in the communities to prevent looting, burglary, anything like that. We have someone from the law enforcement side right behind me. They're coming back. I told them to stay up here.
Hi, it's me again. Yes, we do have patrols up in there. We have been overly blessed with Coconino County. They responded down to help us. Right now, they're kind of busy with several fires in their area. Payson Police Department, they have supplied officers to patrol the areas, and we have sheriff's deputies that are running around the areas also, day and night.
Thank you.
Sir?
Can the fire ever reach Payson? And if it does, what can be done? And should we all do a rain dance tonight to get the rain without help?
So the questions are, do you think the fire will progress towards Payson, and should we all do a rain dance tonight? For the latter, I would go with yes. Do the rain dance, and then I'll pass to Caleb for the first part of the question. No lightning in that, right? Just rain.
Okay, so, right, as we speak, right now, fire is not threatening Payson, right? We are working with fire along the 87 corridor. Should fire come out of Fossil Creek and want to move beyond the 87, it's hot, it's dry, it's windy, that could pose problems for containment efforts, as we all know what this rim country looks like. So right now, we're doing everything we can to keep the fire on the west side of the 87. Should it get on the other side of the 87, we'll evaluate where it is, what we can do. We'll take aggressive actions to suppress it, and we'll make decisions based on that outcome.
Thank you, Caleb. Yes.
What is going on with the power lines?
So the question is, what is going on with the power lines? And I'm looking around, and I don't believe we had somebody to answer those questions, but we are working on providing an update specifically on the power lines. I don't know if you have some info that. So we're working with APS to provide some more detailed information in our morning update tomorrow about the status of the power lines. So we will get that out to you.
Okay, because I know last night you said that you lost one of the substations. Was that correct? And that you may have, and that you are concerned about two others? So,
What occurs, the fire moved through 30,000 acres up to this point. And in that 30,000 acres, there were power lines. Obviously, there's no power in certain areas. We can't answer for APS. They are working on information to provide to you guys. And we're working with them very closely. And we'll allow them to provide that information we don't want. I don't want to speak for them. I'm just not an expert in that field.
Yes, sir.
Where and when our residents have been evacuated will be able to get their mail?
So the question is, where and when are residents going to be able to get their mail? So it doesn't appear we have a good answer for you at this time. Okay, go for it.
I talked to the post office today in Payson, and they said the Strawberry residents can pick up their Payson with their mail at the Payson. Post office tomorrow.
Okay, so it looks like residents can pick up their mail starting tomorrow at the Payson Post Office.
Is that only Strawberry?
You were calling just on behalf of because you're in Strawberry. So they were calling because they are residents of Strawberry.
I went to the post office today, and yes, they confirmed they will have a special window set up just for Pine and Strawberry mail delivery tomorrow.
Perfect. So starting tomorrow, they will have a window for pickup for both Pine and Strawberry residents at the Payson Post Office. We will make sure that we will include that information in our social media posts as well. So for the folks online, that we're sharing that information out there as well. Yes, ma'am, and then I will go back there.
Information on this one. I understand there was a meeting today to determine about closing the forest completely. Is there an answer to that now?
So the question was, there was a meeting about closing the forest, and I'll have Matt, the district ranger, come up and answer that one.
The Tonto National Forest will make a decision tomorrow on whether to close the forest. Coconino National. Thanks for the feedback. The Coconino National Forest on Wednesday morning will close the Coconino National Forest.
Okay, right here, ma'am.
I just wanted information that, like, we have a 500-gallon propane tank buried in the ground, and we have a generator, and we drove away because we had no understanding or no knowledge of what to do with that. So are we in fear and plan of not shutting these things down?
So the question was an underground propane tank with a generator and drove away. Not sure what the status is or what's going to happen with it since it's probably still on.
Yeah, it's 500 gallons.
to the propane company.
Goes the mic.
Oh, no. Pass it on.
So it looks like right now the best information is to talk to the propane company, and at this point they don't have the, I'm going to guess, the capacity to go around and make sure all individual things are shut off. So I would recommend checking with the
We
propane.
did call them and they said, don't worry about it, but you know, everything is 500 gallons of propane sitting in the ground.
Yeah,
And
we-
the generator that's gonna go on, a little fear that.
Yeah, absolutely understand.
So like.
I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you.
Well, at least we tried. Thank you.
Sir, back there, I think you had a question? Yep, and then next up here, sir, I got you.
I was wondering, there were some stories about people having on video, one or two vehicles driving around, a white pickup and a white SUV with some seedy characters in them with the two windows and stuff. And I was wondering if there's law enforcement on the ground up there now, is there a number we can call to possibly get a drive-through or a drive-around on property or anybody else that comes in there? And if there is somebody up there driving around, who's to apprehend or chase or whatever?
So the question was, is there a specific phone number that individuals or folks that are in the evacuated areas can call to have have law enforcement drive around their property and check on their property?
Yeah.
We have officers from the sheriff's office, Payson Police, certified officers that are in the area, they're on patrol. They're driving around. If they see anybody out and about, they're making contact with them. So if somebody sees something, they're more than welcome to call our dispatch center. But we have officers up in the area. That's what they're specifically doing, is trying to drive around, check the neighborhoods, and make sure the folks who did stay up there should be staying on their property, not driving around up there. And anybody else that's out roaming around, there to make contact with them and make sure they go. If they need to be escorted out of the area, they will be. If they're staying up there, they go to their property and they're told they need to stay on their property. They can't be out roaming around.
Great, sir, right here. And then that guy.
Well, first of all, and I don't think I've heard this in any of the meetings I've heard up to this point, but we are very thankful and grateful for all the
We very much appreciate that, and every morning, as Alan mentioned, we brief the firefighters, and we relay that. That's probably the thing that I take the most pride in, is being able to relay your guys' appreciation to the firefighters every morning. It gives me goosebumps every morning to be able to share with them that you guys are appreciating the hard work that they're doing. Thank you.
And we're also very grateful for your transparency in letting us know what's going on right up to date and taking all of our questions. So thank you for that. I have a question, and it's related to some other things that were said earlier. It was a 5 hours ago, there was on the INSEE website a statement from the Gila County Sheriff's Department that road closure on Highway 87 in Houston Mesa Road will be a hard closure, and there will be no access for any reason to residences in the Pine Strawberry community. Now, if I understood correctly, Caleb said there's no imminent threat to either Pine nor Strawberry. So I'm wondering, this it appears to be like government overreach, not to allow people in, even on very large fires. And I even have family members who've been in firefighting and others fires all over the nation. They usually allow at least a 2-hour window every day, so people who have animals and other reasons to actually be in there are given a sheet. They go in, they sign back out. They're given the opportunity to water their animals, to do whatever else they need to in their property. Well, why this? I mean, it's like, it's too much.
So the question was addressing specifically the Gila County Sheriff's Office notice that was shared on multiple social media sites about what they're referring to as a hard closure going in and out. So I'm going to pass that.
Okay, the reason for the hard closure at this point in time is for the last, since the evacuation occurred, we have tried to be as accommodating as we can to assist folks in getting in there to take care of some animals, to retrieve their medications. But as the days keep going, everyone wants to go back up in there. Like we said earlier, the fire crews are coming in there, they're coming in force. They're gonna be moving around in there. We're trying to keep as much of the public out as we can so they can have safe passage through there and there's no interference. There are people that are still in the community that are roaming around that are causing some issues that we are trying to deal with and get them away. We are working with the fire team as much as we can. As soon as they can tell us that we can open it back up and we can let the residents back in, we're going to let everyone in. But right now we can't. It's a little hard. They need to get in there and do their job. And as the days progress, there's going to be more and more fire crews in there. And we don't want any interaction. We don't want any accidents between them. We want to keep the public safe and we want to keep the firefighters safe.
Sir, back here.
Yes, I went out with my fence also, so she's before that. But I was wondering if I may have missed it. Do we have a number of personnel, machinery, equipment? Did they already cover that here, or has that not been covered?
So I'm not sure if we said it specifically. I can't give you the exact numbers on like the equipment numbers, but right now we're at 32,757 acres at 0% contained. And currently there are 334 personnel working on the fire. On the INSEE website, that is one of the blocks that we fill in, and we put some more details in there about a certain number of helicopters, aviation assets, engines, hotshot crews, that kind of stuff that's on INSEE web. I just don't have those right on me right now.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the firefighting personnel need donations of water, Gatorade, anything? And if so, is there a donation location you can drop?
So the question was, do the firefighters need donations of food or water or any sort of supplies? So our firefighters are well fed, well taken care of. They have sleeping accommodations, they have all their equipment. We recommend that if you are interested in providing a donation, that you reach out to the Red Cross, you reach out to your local volunteer fire departments, and look for those resources within your community to provide those donations to, especially given that there are evacuations in place. But thank you for the question. Yes, ma'am.
Did I understand right that tonight they're gonna try and backburn around Strawberry? Did I hear that or did I imagine?
So the question was, did I hear correctly that tonight they're going to have a firing operation around Strawberry?
Yes, that is correct. At the 87-260 junction, we anticipate a firing operation to begin as we move into the nighttime hours. And that's to start to put fire along that corridor that creates that buffer from the oncoming main fire that's in Fossil Creek that we know is going to move to the north and east. It will move. We want to stay ahead of it, hence that firing operation.
Thank you. Over here, and then ma'am next. So,
I want to echo the heartfelt feelings towards your staff and to the community here, the people, especially in Strawberry Pines. This is my first experience in this kind of situation, and so I can't imagine what you're all going through this year. But I have a tendency, based on my background, to zoom out with the big picture. I'm watching TV, and they're in the process now of evacuating. And part of that time is in the show mode and the restaurant ready set mode. And so right now we have our guests here from Strawberry and Pine, and the road is closed to their, to Strawberry and Pine, and 7 is also closed now on the east side of Payson to Erie. So we have our 2 exit routes are now closed. We only have one left. My question is to the city of Payson, what are we doing here to mitigate the risk, the traffic risk, the impending traffic problems we're going to have?
So the question was related to, there is a new start near the community of Heber. There are evacuations in place for those community, or for that community, and there's also a closure on the road that is an additional exit route out of the city of Payson, or I'm sorry, the town of Payson. So what is Payson doing to make sure that we have safe egress routes out of the area?
Thanks. Great question. It's something we think about every second of every day. I'm Police Chief Ron Tischer from the town of Payson, and what I can tell you is we work closely with our other law enforcement agencies to make sure that, DPS, the Sheriff's Department, other surrounding communities, to make sure that if we need to get out of here, we're going to open up all 4 lanes of that highway, and we'll get you out of here. So I know things move very quickly. And one thing I want to say is, it's great to see y'all here tonight, because y'all did the right thing and evacuated. It's very, very difficult for us to go in after the fact and help people get out. We just can't do it. There's too many resources involved. So from the town of Payson's perspective, we're here to serve you. While you're in our community, we want to make you as safe as we possibly can. If you need anything, grab an officer, grab somebody that has a town of Payson logo on their shirt, ask them for help, because we will figure out a way to get that to you. So, thank you.
So, there was one right right here, ma'am. Sorry.
Hey, really big, but I really want to know, when are we going to be able to go home?
So the question was.
My grandparents paid for that property in 1956. And for me to leave, it's really hard, as you know what. I mean, yeah. And then you got to work at church, and it's really sad where I can't go home and come back, and then I can't go home at like 7 o'clock. And I can't be, I know Pearl Redneck first, because I know the Pearl River, and I know the back of my hand. I mean, I can go that way, and it's really hard, but we got a block. But everything going on, and then I have all the friends that are still there. And it's like they're trapped, not supposed to be. It's like, man, are we in the U.S. or what?
So the question was, again, do we have an idea of when we'll be able to go back to our homes?
No, we do not have any idea on when you can go home. We want to get you home as soon as we can. As soon as the fire team believes it is safe enough and there's no threat whatsoever, albeit there's no threat right now, the fire can move around where it can become a threat. Until they tell us that there's no threat and you're capable of coming home, we will let you know and we will get you back home as soon as we can.
Can you remember when the lady hit the side of the mountain and the fire went up on top there?
Thank you, ma'am.
It was going to come down into Pine, but it didn't.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, right here, you had a question.
I hope God it will go away.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, based on the comments that you've made tonight on the resources we have available, how many active fires are currently going on in the state of Arizona and fire crews that are probably impacting your ability to control this fire?
So the question was, given the number of resources that we have, how many active fires are going on in the state of Arizona, and is that impacting our ability to get resources? So I'm going to have our incident commander come back up that while I pull up the site that tells me how many active fires there are in Arizona right now, so I can give it to him.
While she gets the number, I'll talk about how we're sharing resources between the incidents that are going on. So there are several going on. We do have limited resources for what we're trying to do. We are focusing our efforts in the areas where we have the values at risk, like your communities. A lot of work has been going on in those communities, but this is a big fire. A lot of times on large fires, we're able to do things consecutively on different portions of the fire. We're having to put a concerted effort right around Pine Strawberry right now. So a lot of work has been done there. We're trying to get that work buttoned up so that any future threat, and as Caleb said, right now there's not an imminent threat, but there is fire out there that has to be mitigated so that there's not a future threat. And the work that they're talking about doing tonight is what leads us towards taking that threat off the table. So do we have a number?
We do, there's currently 24 in the southwest.
In the southwest. So in the southwest, currently 24 incidents that are being managed.
Not all in Arizona.
No, it's across Arizona and New Mexico.
Between Arizona and New Mexico, we look at the region. So Arizona, New Mexico, we got 24 incidents.
Is this the highest priority fire amongst the 24?
Yes.
Currently? Currently and nationally as well. Welcome.
I want to be more specific. I'd like to find out if the town of Payson, maybe Tom Morrissey can answer the question, police chief, does the town of Payson have an evacuation plan?
So the question is,
And if not, are we working on one?
so the question is, does the town of Payson have an evacuation plan? And if not, are we working on one?
Thank you. Good question. We absolutely do have an evacuation plan. We work it every year. We practice it, make sure everything's in place. With only a few ways in and a few ways out, it makes our evacuation plans a little easier to work. Our problem is getting people out of our neighborhoods, different ways. So it's not, we don't want to publish the routes because we don't want you or anyone for that matter thinking, all right, this is the way I'm going to go out. And then when something happens, that way's blocked. So we have all the plans in place. We practice them, we work them, we make sure we revisit them several times throughout the year, and certainly prior to fire season. So we did a exercise up by the airport this year where we did a mock evacuation. So we practice it a lot, and we want to make sure we're prepared when and if the time ever comes to evacuate Payson.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, okay. I'm going to answer one of the questions from online first, so bear with me. There are quite a few questions from our online audience. As a reminder, this is streaming on Facebook Live, and so we have folks that are listening in from the Camp Verde side as well. And so there was a question for Caleb and for operations to talk a little bit more about, a little bit more in detail about the activity that happened on the western side of the fire today and in and around Camp Verde.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go back to the operations map, and we'll focus more on the western side of the fire. We'll begin from the northwest corner and move down to the division break. And again, resources in Division Delta, they had 2 road graders and a dozer working out there. They constructed this line yesterday and completed it today down into the Verde River with road graders and a dozer. That control line is ready to be ignited if we need to, should the fire continue to back down to the northwest corner here. Also, resources continue to continue to construct this dozer line around here, around these communities, working down to the south and then tying back in here to this corner. That gives them an additional opportunity that should fire go beyond the primary line, they have an alternate line to fall back to that keeps fire from impacting the community, the homes, and so on. Beyond that, we also have another operation taking place, they do, where they're looking at all the homes in and around the Verde River, or in and around these road systems, in and around the Verde River, looking at homes, looking at defensible space, seeing what they can do to increase that as they get additional resources, so that should fire impact and go beyond their primary line, their alternate line, they can fall back to road systems and be aggressive as they safely can to reduce fire impact to those communities. Over here in Division Hotel, resources continue to prep, remove those fuels on the south side of the 260 in anticipation that if we need to conduct firing operations, we're ready for it. That doesn't mean we are. We just have to be ready should that fire want to move that direction. Now, what I want to elaborate upon is there's still active fire out here, but what it's currently doing is backing into the wind and flanking into the wind. because our primary winds are out of the west. That's a low-intensity fire that continues to move downhill, and some of this has gone out on its own. Some of it will continue to grow. It's not going to go out completely. We can't get in there and put it out with firefighters. It's too rough. It's too tough. We don't have the resources, and it's just real difficult for folks to get in. We don't want our folks to get injured, right? And so that's the focus that occurred today. The continued focus will consist of those resources in the community up here along Wheatfield, Mesa, continuing to look at those structures and improve upon the work that's already either being looked at or implemented. And that'll continue on until either we have to implement some sort of firing operation along those control lines, or fire behavior changes that maybe we can then pivot and get closer to it. But, there's a lot of variables in it, and it's a very dynamic situation.
Could you use your laser just to show 260 and 87? It's a little hard to see on that.
This is 260. Sorry about that, everybody. And this is 87.
Thank you. So we'll go with a couple more questions in the room. So, sir, right here.
As far as
I've been watching this all day. They go to a fire hydrant with all the trucks, with the trucks and the men, and they paint the fire hydrant. You know how much that's cost?
That was a first.
That audio works really well.
If only we could have gotten that audio working earlier, right? Sorry about that. Go ahead with the question.
my question is about returning after the evacuation of Pine and Strawberry. Are we linked, are Pine and Strawberry linked together? Will the decision be made for both communities, or could they be separated, like Strawberry safe, Pine's not, or vice versa?
So the question is talking about the return to the communities process, and are the two communities linked together, or will decisions be made separately based on the fire conditions and that coordination with the teams?
The sheriff's office is going to work with the incident management team on that, depending on where the fire is and what they're thinking. If we can release Pine or Strawberry first, we will. But more than likely, with the way the fire is and the propensity that it can do being up on the rim and in that area, more than likely the communities are going to stay. The communities are going to pretty much stay linked unless something changes where we can let one of them in. But we'll be working with the incident management team on that, and we're not going to make that decision until they tell us it is safe to let folks back in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. There was one, ma'am in the pink back there, sorry.
So when we're allowed to go back home, are we gonna just be one lane going back home with all of us, or will they be, it would let the two lanes go north, so we're not gonna go home, because you know there's no way to hurry to go home.
So the question is, given the fact that people are going to be anxious to get home, is the traffic pattern going to change at all to allow folks back in?
No. It'll be one lane up.
2 hours?
No, it's going to be one lane up. We're not going to switch it, because hopefully when they open it up, they'll be able to open the highway, so there's going to be other traffic coming. Plus, you also still have fire apparatus and other folks in there that are moving around. So no, it will be one lane of travel only. Thank you.
Thank you. There was one over here, right here, ma'am, and then down here, and then over here. Keep track.
I don't know, is this fire throwing any fire embers, close enough to the Pine or Strawberry?
So the question is, are there embers close enough to Pine or Strawberry?
Right now, where the fire is in Fossil Creek and Hard Scrabble Canyon, fire is not generating embers that are going to land into Strawberry and Pine. Now, I will say that this fire has the opportunity to throw those embers up to 1/4 and 1/2 mile in that brush, pinyon, juniper, fuel type. When it transitions into the timber, your spotting distance become a lot further and a lot longer. Right now, that's not occurring. We talk about imminent threats. There's not an imminent threat right now, but there's that opportunity that it can happen. And that's why we have the communities evacuated. It gives us the opportunity to get in there and do what we can safely. If the community is open, imagine a lot of people in there. We have our resources. The community wants to look and see what's going on. Fly is attracted to light. We're attracted to fire. Community members, public, they want to go look at the fire. We want those lanes open so those firefighters can do a really good job and focus on it and do the work to allow you guys to get back into your future.
Thank you. Sir, right here.
Yes, I actually have two questions. So along Dead Man's Mesa right there, I noticed we're focusing a lot up in the northwest and also up to the northeast. But what's going on Dead Man's Mesa and the Forest Route 428 from it spreading down into Pine? Because and the second question would be for the law enforcement. How many officers do we actually have patrolling our neighborhoods up there? Because we have a lot of big properties, spread out properties, and hidden roads. So I want to know how many officers we have patrolling up there.
So two-part question. The first one was about along the section down here, southeast corner, and I'll have Caleb address that one. And then the second question was for law enforcement. What is the number of law enforcement officers that are patrolling our communities?
All right, thank you. Regarding the fire activity that's in hardscrabble. I'm sorry? Oh, louder, okay. The fire activity in hardscrabble has not progressed to the east today. And that's due to all the aircraft that dropped numerous water, the scoopers and the helicopter on that fire activity on Dead Man Mesa and below Dead Man Mesa on the cliff face, on those benches in hardscrabble. Because that fire didn't move, because those aircraft were able to work on that with that water, a helispot was created this afternoon to allow resources to get in there on foot and take and remove those sources of heat from that edge. We can drop a lot of water on that fire edge that doesn't put that heat out. We have to put boots on the ground, firefighters next to that edge, and remove that heat from that edge to keep it from advancing, and that's what's occurring.
Thank you.
Part two of the question. We are putting as many officers as we can up there to patrol the areas. It varies. Today I think we've had 4 or 5 of them up there working nights. We had the assistance of Coconino County, but now that they got fires going on, they pulled their people out. We're still using Payson PD and we're using the sheriff's office. We're patrolling it with as much as we can put in there, knowing it is a large area. There's a lot of private property in there, and they're running the neighborhoods, going around and looking and checking everything they can. So I can't give you an exact number. It just depends on our staffing levels and who we have to work, because everybody who's up there working this at this point is working overtime shifts with the folks in the daytime who can get up there. We're running them up there to help patrol the areas.
If I could add one thing, from the town of Payson, the officers we're sending up there, we're trying to send the officers, especially during the overnight hours, that lived up there, so they know all the nooks and crannies and the ins and outs. So they're more apt to go on those back roads and down those long driveways just to check things out, to hopefully make sure nothing is happening. So that's what we're trying to do in town of Payson. I know that the deputies that are up there, they know the area very well too. So we're trying to make sure that we have the right people in the right places for these types of incidents.
Thank you so much. So we are going to start wrapping up our questions. There's a couple of folks I see raising their hands that haven't asked yet, but I want to reassure you that all of our speakers are going to stick around, so that if you have additional questions, feel free to come up and continue to ask those questions. So, sir in the back, and then we'll go down here, sir.
I just want to know what containment means.
So what does containment mean?
Zero.
Okay, so when we talk about containment, we're talking about portion of that control line that we can safely walk away from, where we know that that fire is not going to escape that control feature. Currently, we're at 0% containment. As we succeed in our efforts to extinguish the fire, create these firing operations around these control lines, you'll see an increase in containment. And once that occurs, then we know we can walk away from that line and not be concerned about it escaping.
I'll add a little bit to that in terms of visually for a public information standpoint. As containment goes up, the maps that we produce and put out to the public will begin to have a black line that you will see go around, and that is a visual representation of where that containment is at. So as you start to see that black line go around, that corresponds to that percent number that is in our updates. Sir?
Yes, mine will be easy. Again, we're so grateful to all of you. But I just wanted to say that the complexity of this incident is amazing. The variables are almost unimaginable. With all that being said, I want to let you know that you're in the thoughts and prayers of our communities for your safety, and also that God will give you wisdom and that God will give you direction to do the very best job and get this thing under control without any firefighters being injured.
Amen. Thank you, sir. So with that, I want to encourage folks to stick around, ask questions of our speakers as we hang out, and oh, absolutely.
Good evening. I'm Steve Christensen, your Gila County District 1 Supervisor. How many of you here are from Pine and Strawberry? Okay, most of you. I feel for you. I have compassion for you. And we are working hard along with everyone, the town of Payson, the Forest Service, and I commend the firefighters. We're standing behind the firefighters. They're working hard for you. We want to get you back in your home as soon as possible, but we want your home to be there when you go back. So if you want more information regularly, Supervisor Steve Christensen is my Facebook page. I usually add to it daily. If you don't want to do that, listen to KMOG at 9 o'clock in the morning. The mayor and I are on that radio station every day talking about the fire, talking about the conditions, and answering your